How you doing?
I mean, my feelings are hurt. I feel betrayed. I feel stabbed in the back. I feel made fun of. Not good feelings.
Sounds like a perfect time to do Meat Sweats Reads.
So I'm going to have to figure out how, because while these things came from outside forces, it's up to me to take responsibility and figure out how to deal with them in a healthy way and then channel them into something.
It's like you're actually an adult.
I am an adult.
That's I
an adult.
I think that's reckless of you.
To be an adult?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's 2020. Nobody's an adult anymore, man.
I'm trying to raise children.
Shit.
I'm trying to
Like that's ever stopped
create
anybody.
a business.
Like that's ever stopped people
From what?
being not adults.
Oh, I mean, you have
out
to
here with
be
your fucking adultness.
you have to be a certain level of adult in order to do those things in a way
Obviously
in which
you
they
don't.
don't collapse.
Obviously, you don't.
I see a lot of things collapsing because people run them like shit.
Well, I mean, they got it. They got to running it, didn't they?
They got it up and running. I'm not talking about just getting something up and running. I'm getting something up and running and getting something that's sustainable.
So you got to be a grown up about that.
Yeah, you got to be a grown up about certain things. You got to take care of your business in an adult way. And even though it's a business of being silly and making light of things, you still have to, compose yourself in a certain way in certain situations. Why is that insane?
That's insane.
Why is that insane?
I'm completely shocked.
Yeah. Why? Why are you shocked?
Being sarcastic.
Oh, okay. Fuck. I don't know. Listen, I don't know what you want. You were just grabbing my nipples a second ago because my 17-year-old son told you to. So.
Oh no, trust me, that's recorded and staying in.
No, it should be 100%. Like that deserves to be part of this. Here's the thing. Like anytime like he grabs my nipples or you grab my nipples, like I'm always so like taken aback by it. And then I feel stupid because, like, I should know. It's happened so many times. I should know that's what's going to happen. And so then I have to be in a defensive stance constantly. And sometimes I just want to let my guard down,
You got to admit, I came in sneaky.
Oh, you came in super sneaky. Yeah. Like, I figured he was going to say something about sausage being a deli meat or some other shit like that or something he heard on a podcast where he was like, yeah, I thought he was going to do something, but like, I'm honestly, too, what I'm also fighting is a certain level of pride with how funny that was. that came from him, that he was like, you know what? I know he and Bill are both in the same room right now. I'm going to get Bill on the phone.
I'm going to use my dad's friend to punk my dad.
Yeah, no, that's like the level of comic IQ.
Yeah. No,
that sits right there.
This kid gets it.
Yeah, no. Like
He's going places.
I'm proud of that.
He's going places.
But also at the same time, I'm disrespectful that I'm raising I'm disappointed that I'm raising two disrespectful children.
Well, I mean, it's because you drink a lot.
That's probably right. It's probably very accurate. Yeah. I mean, once again, the responsibility all falls back on my shoulders.
Because he's the adult.
Because I'm the adult. That's what happens when you start being an adult around people who are not adults. They're just like, fuck it, this guy will fucking shoulder the blame.
Definitely.
Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. We're on chapter 8 called
Yeehaw.
Thieves, Heretics, and Whores.
Episode recap, or chapter recap from last week. Coat slash Quoth started, he met Chronicler, and him and Chronicler came to an understanding, and now Chronicler's gonna take down Quoth's crazy fucking story about him fighting the fucking Shandies, or what are they called?
The Chandrian?
The Chandrian, and what he married an angel, or he loved an angel, and he killed a demon, shit like that. There was a prophetic style statement made.
Oh, here, I'll read it. It's like the last paragraph of the last chapter. But I was brought up as Quoth. My father once told me it meant to know. I have, of course, been called many other things, most of them uncouth, although very few were unearned. I have stolen princesses back from sleeping barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. I have spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear to speak of during the day. I have talked to gods, loved women, and written songs that make the minstrels weep. You may have heard of me.
So we're gonna go down. We're going into Quoth's life. So it's like at this point we're going back in time, right?
Yep. That's like the back in time. I don't know if you guys have ever seen television.
That was some really good Twilight Zone ref right there.
I was more of like trying to do like a Wayne's World thing.
Okay.
I should have done like the fingers and the yeah. But whatever. I'll go fuck myself.
You're good at it.
Chapter 8: Thieves, Heretics, and Hooers.
In this house, we call them angels of mercy.
Ooh, I like that. If this story is to be something resembling my book of deeds, we must begin at the beginning, at the heart of who I truly am. To do this, you must remember that before I was anything else, I was one of the Adema Ra. Contrary to popular belief, not all traveling performers are of the Ra. My troupe was not some poor batch of mummers, japing at crossroads for pennies, singing for our suppers. We were court performers, Lord Greyfallow's men. Our arrival in most towns was more of an event than the midwinter pageantry and Solenad games rolled together. There were usually at least 8 wagons in our troupe and well over 24 performers, actors and acrobats, musicians and hand magicians, jugglers and jesters, my family. My father was a better actor and musician than any you have ever seen. My mother had a natural gift for words. They were both beautiful and with dark hair and easy laughter. They were raw down to their bones, and that really is all that needs to be said. Save perhaps that my mother was a noble before she was a trooper. She told me my father had lured her away from a miserable, dreary hell with sweet music and sweeter words. I could only assume she meant 3 Crossings, where we went to visit relatives when I was very young, once. My parents were never really married, by which I mean they never bothered making the relationship official with any church. I'm not embarrassed by the fact. They considered themselves married and didn't see much point in announcing it to any government or God. I respect that. In truth, they seemed more content and faithful than many officially married couples I've seen since. Our patron was Baron Greyfallow, and his name opened many doors that would ordinarily be closed to the Edema Ra. In return, we wore his colors, green and gray, and added to his reputation wherever we went. Once a year, we spent 2 span at his manor, entertaining him and his household. You're just fucking the tip of your nose. It's just wildly, just like...
It's just rude.
It is fucking rude. Rude. It was a happy childhood, growing up in the center of an endless fair. My father would read to me from the great monologues during the long wagon rides between towns. Reciting mostly from memory, his voice would roll down the road for a quarter mile. I remember reading along, coming in on the secondary parts. My father would encourage me to try particularly good sections myself, and I learned to love the feel of good words. My mother and I would make up songs together. Other times, my parents would act out romantic dialogues while I followed along in the books. They seemed like games at the time. Little did I know how cunningly I was being taught. I was a curious child, quick with questions and eager to learn. With acrobats and actors as my teachers, it was little wonder that I never grew to dread lessons as most children do. The roads were safer in those days, but cautious folk would still travel with our troop for safety's sake. They supplemented my education. I learned an eclectic smattering of Commonwealth law from a traveling barrister too drunk or too pompous to realize he was lecturing an 8-year-old. I learned woodcraft from a huntsman named Lacklith, who traveled with us for nearly a whole season. I learned the sordid inner workings of the royal court in Modeg from a courtesan. As my father used to say, call a jack, call a spade, but always call a whore a lady. Their lives are hard enough, and it never hurts to be polite.
See?
What?
Angels of Mercy.
Angels of Mercy, absolutely. Listen, I say whore in the most loving way possible.
Yeah.
As I love
That's
whores.
why you pronounce it as whore.
Whore. That's why I put the emphasis
on the
whore.
whore.
Hewers. Hatera smelled vaguely of cinnamon, and at 9 years old I found her fascinating without exactly knowing why. She taught me I should never do anything in private that I didn't want talked about in public, and cautioned me not to talk in my sleep. And then there was Abernathy, my first real teacher. He taught me more than all the others set end to end. If not for him, I would never have become the man I am today. I ask that you not hold it against him. He meant well. You'll have to move along, the mayor said. Camp outside town, and no one will bother you so long as you don't start any fights or wander off with anything that isn't yours. He gave my father a significant look. Then be on your merry way tomorrow. No performances. They're more trouble than they're worth. We are licensed, my father said, pulling out a folded piece of parchment from the inner pocket of his jacket. Charged to perform, in fact. The mayor shook his head and made no motion to look at our writ of patronage. It makes folks rowdy, he said firmly. Last time there was an unholy row during the play. Too much drinking, too much excitement. Folks tore down the doors off the public house and smashed up the tables. The hall belongs to the town, you see. The town bears the expense of the repairs. By the time our wagons were drawing attention, Tripp was doing some juggling. Marion and his wife were putting on an impromptu string puppet show. I was watching my father from the back of our wagon. We certainly would not want to offend you or your patron, the mayor said. However, the town can ill afford another evening such as that. As a gesture of goodwill, I'm willing to offer you a copper each, say 20 pennies, simply to be on your way and not make any trouble for us here. Now, you have to understand that 20 pennies might be a good bit of money for some little ragamuffin troupe living hand to mouth. But for us, it was simply insulting. He should have offered us 40 to play for the evening, free use of the public hall, a good meal, and beds at the inn. The last we would graciously decline, as their beds were no doubt lousy, and those in our wagons were not. If my father was surprised or insulted, he did not show it. Pack up, he shouted over one shoulder. Tripp tucked his juggling stones into various pockets without so much as a flourish. There was a disappointed chorus from several dozen townfolk as the puppets stopped mid-jape and were packed away. The mayor looked relieved, brought out his purse, and pulled out 2 silver pennies. I'll be sure to tell the Baron of your generosity, my father said carefully as the mayor laid the pennies into his hand. The mayor froze mid-motion. Baron? Baron Greyfollow, my father paused, looking for some spark of recognition on the mayor's face. Lord of the Eastern Marshes, Hudumbrand by Theron, and the Whitacont Hills. My father looked around at the horizon. We are still in the Whitacont Hills, aren't we? Well, yes, the mayor said, but Squire Simmelin. Oh, we're in Simmelin's fief, my father exclaimed, looking around as just now getting his bearings. My nose fucking is so itchy right now.
You
Jesus
shouldn't do
Christ.
so much cocaine before you come. It's rude.
I love it.
That's why you read so good.
Because cocaine?
Yep.
I mean...
Listen, you want to get through books? Take a bump.
Cocaine.
Books and bumps.
Oh, we're in Simmelin's fief, my father exclaimed, looking around, just now getting his bearings. Thin gentleman, tidy little beard. He brushed his chin with fingers. The mayor nodded numbly. Charming fellow, lovely stinging voice. Met him when we were entertaining the Baron last midwinter. Of course, the mayor paused significantly. Might I see your writ? I watched as the mayor read it. It took him a little while, as my father had not bothered to mention the majority of the Baron's titles, such as the Viscount of Montrone and Lord of Trelliston. The upshot was this. It was true that the Squire Simmelin controlled this little town and all the land around it, but Simmelin owed fealty directly to Greyfollow. In more concrete terms, Greyfollow was captain of the ship. Simmelin scrubbed the planking and saluted him. The mayor refolded the parchment and handed it back to my father. I see. That was all. I remember being stunned when the mayor didn't apologize or offer my father more money. My father paused as well, then continued. The city is your jurisdiction, sir, but we'll perform either way. It will either be here or just outside the city limits. You can't use the public house, the mayor said firmly. I won't have it wrecked again. We can play right here, my father pointed to the market square. It will be enough space, and it keeps everyone right here in town. The mayor hesitated, though I could hardly believe it. We sometimes chose to play on the green because the local buildings weren't big enough. 2 of our wagons were built to become stages for just that eventuality. But in my whole 11 years of memory, I could barely count on both hands the times we'd been forced to play the green. We had never been played out. We had never played outside the city limits. They're kind of a big deal.
It's interesting, like how there's this troupe of actors essentially coming through to do a play, and they're doing it on the behest of like the guy who's the governance in that realm, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that's how that worked. Is that how that worked historically? Just out of curiosity?
I think if you got like a writ of patroncy, so if you get a patron, that's someone who takes care of you so that you can pursue your art.
Okay.
And basically they get to take responsibility for, they don't get credit for your art, but they get to show you off. Mm-hmm. Like this book will get more into patronage and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, they basically...
That's an interesting concept, though. And then
they basically hire you to be their, you know...
But at the same time, like, he's got to go in, and then the town's got to pay him, too. Right?
I mean, according to what they just went through, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think the patronage might be that, hey, I give you this writ, which will allow you to perform in all these places.
Yeah.
Because without it, they certainly wouldn't be performing in this town.
Yeah, so the writ is like your booker.
Right. Yeah.
Or your agent.
Your agent, yeah.
And like all these towns are bookers, and your writ is like, you just have to put me on stage. I wish I had a writ.
I mean, make your own writ.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's not working.
But we were spared that. The mayor nodded at last and gestured my father closely. I slipped out the back of the wagon and moved close enough to catch the end of what he said. God-fearing folk around here. Nothing vulgar or heretical. We had a double handful of trouble with the last troop that came through here. 2 fights, folks missing their laundry, and one of Branson's daughters got herself in a family way. I was outraged. I waited for my father to show the mayor the sharp side of his tongue, to explain the difference between mere traveling performers and Edema Ra. We didn't steal. We would never let things get so out of control that a bunch of drunks ruined the hall where we were playing. But my father did nothing of the sort. He just nodded and walked back toward our wagon. He gestured and Tripp started juggling again. The puppets reemerged from their cases. As he came around the wagon, he saw me standing, half hidden beside the horses. I'm guessing you heard the whole thing from the look on your face, he said with a wry grin. Let it go, my boy. He gets full marks for honesty, if not for grace. He just says out loud what other folk keep in the quiet of their hearts. Why do you think I have everyone stay in pairs when we go about our business in bigger towns? I knew it for the truth. Still, it was a hard pill for a young boy to swallow. 20 pennies, I said scathingly, as if he were offering us charity. That was the hardest part of growing up at Amara. We are strangers everywhere. Many folk view us as vagabonds and beggars, while others deem us little more than thieves, heretics, and whores. It's hard to be wrongfully accused, but it's worse when the people looking down on you are clods who have never read a book or traveled more than 20 miles from their place where they were born. My father laughed and roughed my hair. Just pity him, my boy. Tomorrow we'll be on our way, but he'll have to keep his own disagreeable company until the day he dies. I want you to remember that.
That's true. I mean, that's holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what a good lesson to teach your kid.
I legitimately walk around like that, where it's like...
I do. I mean...
Like, you're going to have to, like... You have to live with your shitty self for the rest of your life, and I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Previously in my life, I have been very reactionary to things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Previously.
I do it now for comedic effect.
Oh okay. Yeah.
It's just supposed to be funny now. But for real, like I had that I had a thought like that about a guy at work once.
Yeah.
Like we just butted heads so hard over just the dumbest shit. Like I would do something a little different, and he would just be like, "Whoa, you can't, like, this is how you're supposed to do it. You can't do it like this." And it was just like, at the end of the day, I just felt bad for him because that fucking menial job is all that guy had.
That's all he's got. He's an ignorant bladder skate, I said bitterly.
What?
An ignorant blather skate.
Blathers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bad word. He lay a firm hand on my shoulder, letting me know I'd said enough. This is what comes of getting too close to a tour, I suppose. Tomorrow we'll head south, greener pastures, kinder folk, prettier women. He cupped an ear toward the wagon and nudged me with his elbow. I can hear everything you say, my mother called sweetly from inside. My father grinned and winked at me. So what play are we going to do? I asked my father. Nothing vulgar, mind you. They're God-fearing folk in these parts. He looked at me. What would you pick? I gave it a long moment's thought. I'd play something from the Brightfield cycle, The Forging of the Path or some such. My father made a face. Not a very good play. I shrugged. They won't know the difference. Besides, it's chock full of Telu, so no one will complain about it being vulgar. I looked up at the sky. I just hope it doesn't rain on us halfway through. My father looked up at the clouds. It will. Still, there are worse things than playing in the rain. Like playing in the rain and getting shimmed on the deal? I asked. The mayor hurried up to us, moving at a fast walk. There was a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead, and he was puffing a little bit, as if he'd been running. I talked it over with a few members of the council, and we decided that it would be quite all right for you to use the public house if you would care to. My father's body language was perfect. It was perfectly clear he was offended, but far too polite to say anything. I certainly wouldn't want to put you out. No bother at all. I insist, in fact. Very well, if you insist. The mayor smiled and hurried away. Well, that's a little better, my father sighed. No need to tighten our belts yet. Halfpenny a head, that's right. Anyone without a head gets in free. Thank you, sir. Tripp was working the door, making sure everyone paid to see the play. Halfpenny a head, though by the rosy glow in your lady's cheeks, I should be charging you for a head and a half. Not that it's any of my business, mind you. Tripp had the quickest tongue of anyone in the troupe, which made him the best man for the job of making sure no one tried to fast talk or bully their way inside. Wearing his green and gray jester's motley, Tripp could say just about anything and get away with it. Hello, Mum. No charge for the little one, but if he starts to squawk, you'd best give him the tick quick or take him outside. Tripp carried on his unending patter. That's right, halfpenny. Yes, sir. Empty head still pays full price.
I wish you could still say that to people. Give him your tit!
Give him your tit and shut him up.
No, now people don't want mothers to breastfeed because they're pussies.
Shut up. Though it was always fun to watch Tripp work, most of my attention was on a wagon that had rolled into the other end of town about a quarter hour ago. The mayor had argued with the old man driving it, then stormed off. Now I saw the mayor heading back to the wagon, accompanied by a tall fellow carrying a long cudgel, the constable, unless I missed my guess. My curiosity got the best of me, and I made my way toward the wagon, doing my best to stay out of sight. The mayor and the old man were arguing again by the time I got close enough to hear. The constable stood nearby, looking irritated and anxious. Told you, I don't have a license. I don't need a license. Does a peddler need a license? Does a tinker need a license? You're not a tinker, the mayor said. Don't try to pass yourself off as one. I'm not trying to pass myself off as anything, the old man snapped. I'm a tinker and a peddler, and I'm more than both. I'm an arcanist, you great dithering heap of idiot. My point exactly, the mayor said doggedly. We're God-fearing people in these parts. We don't want any meddling with dark things, better left alone. You don't want the trouble your kind can bring. My kind, the old man said. What do you know about my kind? There probably hasn't been an Arcanist through these parts in 50 years. We like it that way. Just turn around and go back the way you came. Like hell if I'm spending a night in the rain because of your thick head, the old man said hotly. I don't need your permission to rent a room or do business in the street. Now get away from me or I'll show you firsthand what sort of trouble my kind can be. Fear flashed across the mayor's face before it was overwhelmed by outrage. He gestured over one shoulder at the constable. Then you'll spend the night in jail for vagrancy and threatening behavior. We'll let you on your way in the morning if you've learned to keep a civil tongue in your head.
This sounds like America.
Merca. The constable advanced on the wagon, his cudgel held cautiously at his side. The old man stood his ground and raised one hand. A deep red light welled up from the front corners of his wagon. That's far enough, he said ominously. Ominously. Things could get ugly otherwise. After a moment's surprise, I realized the strange light came from a pair of sympathy lamps the old man had mounted on his wagon. I had seen one before in Lord Greatfellow's library. They were brighter than gaslight, steadier than candles or lamps, and lasted nearly forever. They were also terribly expensive. I was willing to bet that no one in this little town had ever heard of them, let alone seen one. The constable stopped in his tracks when the light began to swell, but when nothing else seemed to happen, he set his jaw and kept walking toward the wagon. The old man's expression grew anxious. Now hold on a moment, he said as the red light from the wagon started to fade. We don't want... Shut your klepper, you old shitfire, the constable said. He snatched at the Arcanist's arm as if he were sticking his hand into an oven. Then, when nothing happened, he smiled and grew more confident. Don't think I won't knock you a good one to keep you from working any more of your devilry. Well done, Tom, the mayor said, radiating relief. Bring him along and we'll send someone back for the wagon. I think it's my mustache. I think my mustache has little stray hairs that are then picking up and itching my nose.
Well, I mean, you know what you could do for that
What?
is use products from...
The Beard Struggle? Oh, hi, my name's Matt Walker, brand Viking for thebeardstruggle.com. Go to thebeardstruggle.com today and enter code MCWalker for 15% off your order. Beardstruggle.com, code MCWalker.
They do mustaches, too.
Yeah. Only mustaches that are part of beards, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. They don't fuck with other
They
mustaches.
don't fuck with you just mustache wearing.
That's the mustache struggle. Go
Yeah.
fuck with them. Get out of my life.
Shameless plug over.
Yeah, listen. I'll take it. I'll do what I have to. I'll suck whatever dicks you put in front of me. It's fine.
I'm gonna put so
I want to
many
be a
dicks in
star,
front of
baby.
you.
I want to
put
be
so
a
many
big
dicks in-
star, baby.
I'm so glad his kid listens to this and he can and he can come back and hear his dad talk about how he wants to suck dick.
I mean, I'll just tell him, like, listen, we all metaphorically have to suck dick in life. You're just trying to figure out which dick you can suck that'll get you the most back, all right? Me coming from a lifetime of just sucking endless dick after dick after dick, and none of them were actual dick except for a couple.
There's been a couple.
in the early life, and those weren't dicks they sucked by choice.
Those are cult dicks.
Yeah, those are cult dicks. But then, yeah, you just keep sucking dicks until you find the dick that produces the most, and then you suck that dick. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, all right, I've got enough from sucking all these dicks, and then people come and suck your dick.
Eventually.
And that's what we're just trying to get to.
I'm not.
Shut up. Yes, you are. You fucking don't pretend like you're some fucking person who doesn't like getting his dick sucked.
I actually prefer a rim job, if I'm being honest.
See.
No, I don't.
Why do you have to
I
fucking?
don't. I don't.
Why do you have to make everything fucking weird?
One
The
step-
constable grinned and twisted the old man's arm. The Arcanist bent at the waist and gasped a short, painful breath. From where I hid, I saw the Arcanist's face change from anxious to pained to angry all in a second. I saw his mouth move. A furious gust of wind came out of nowhere, as if a storm had suddenly burst with no warning. The wind struck the old man's wagon, and it tipped onto 2 wheels before slamming back down onto 4. The constable staggered and fell as if he had been struck by the hand of God. Even where I hid nearby, 30 feet away, the wind was so strong that I was forced to take a step forward as if I'd been pushed roughly from behind. "Be gone," the old man shouted angrily. "Trouble me no longer. I will set fire to your blood and fill you with a fear like ice and iron." There was something familiar about his words, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Both the mayor and the constable turned tail and ran, their eyes white and wild as startled horses. The wind faded as quickly as it had come. The whole sudden burst couldn't have lasted more than 5 seconds. As most of the townfolk were gathered around the public house, I doubted anyone had seen it except for me, the mayor, the constable, and the old man's donkeys who stood placidly in their harness, utterly unperturbed. "Leave this place clean of your foul presence," the arcanist muttered to himself as he watched them go. "By the power of my name, I command it to be so." I finally realized why his words seemed so familiar. He was quoting lines from the exorcism scene in De Onica. Not many folk knew that play. The old man turned back to his wagon and began to extemporize. "I'll turn you into butter on a summer day. I'll turn into a poet with the soul of a priest. I'll fill you with lemon custard and push you out a window," he spat. "Bastards." His irritation seemed to leave him, and he heaved a great weary sigh. "Well, that couldn't have gone much worse," the old man muttered as he rubbed at the shoulder of the arm the constable had twisted. "Do you think they'll come back with a mob behind them?" For a second, I thought the old man was talking to me. Then I realized the truth. He was talking to his donkeys. "I don't think so either," he said to them. "But I've been wrong before. Let's stay near the edge of town and have a look at the last of the oats, shall we?" He clambered up onto the back of the wagon and came down with a wide bucket and a nearly empty burlap sack. He upended the sack into the bucket and seemed disheartened by the results. He took out a handful for himself before nudging the bucket toward the donkeys with his foot. "Don't give me that look," he said to them. "It's short rations all around. Besides, you can graze." He petted one donkey while he ate his handful of rough oats, stopping occasionally to spit out a husk. It struck me as very sad, this old man all alone on the road with no one to talk to but his donkeys. It's hard for us at a Marah, but at least we had each other. This man had no one. We've wandered too far from civilization, boys. The folks that need me don't trust me, and the ones that trust me can't afford me. The old man peered into his purse. "We've got a penny and a half, so our options are limited. Do we want to be wet tonight or hungry tomorrow? We're not going to do any business, so it'll probably be one or the other." I slunk around the edge of the building until I could see what was written on the side of the old man's wagon. It read, "Abernathy, Arcanist Extraordinary, Scribe, Dowser, Chemist, Dentist, Rare Goods, all ailments tended, lost items found, anything mended, no horoscopes, no love potions, no malefication." Abernathy noticed me as soon as I stepped out from behind the building where I had been hiding. "Hello there. Can I help you?" "You've misspelled ailments," I pointed out. He looked surprised. "It's a joke, actually," he explained. "I brew a bit." "Oh, ale," I said, nodding. "I get it." I brought my hand out of my pocket. "Can you sell me anything for a penny?" He seemed struck between amusement and curiosity. "What are you looking for?" "I'd like some Lassilium." We had performed Farian the Fair a dozen times in the last month, and it had filled my young mind with intrigue and assassination. "Are you expecting someone to poison you?" he said, somewhat taken aback. "Not really, but it seems to me that if you wait around until you know you need an antidote, it's probably too late to pick one up." "I suppose I could sell you a penny's worth," he said. "That would be about a dose for a person your size. But it's dangerous stuff in its own right. It only cures certain poisons. You can hurt yourself if you take it at the wrong time." "Oh," I said. "I didn't know that." In the play, it was touted as an infallible cure-all. Abernathy tapped his lips thoughtfully. "Can you answer me a question in the meantime?" I nodded. "Whose troop is that?" "In a way, it's mine," I said. "But in another way, it's my father's because he runs the show and points which way the wagons go. But it's Baron Greyfallow's, too, because he's our patron. We're Lord Greyfallow's men." The old man gave me an amused look. "I've heard of you. Good troop, good reputation." I nodded, not seeing any point in false modesty. "Do you think your father might be interested taking on any help, he asked. I don't claim to be much of an actor, but I'm handy to have around. I could make you face paint and rouge that aren't all full of lead and mercury and arsenic. I can do lights too, quick, clean, and bright. Different colors if you want them. I didn't have to think too hard about it. Candles were expensive and vulnerable to drafts. Torches were dirty and dangerous, and everyone in the troupe learned the dangers of cosmetics at an early age. It was hard to become an old, seasoned trooper when you painted poison on yourself every third day and ended up raving mad by the time you were 25.
Ooh, fuck. That's so real.
Isn't that real?
People used to put lead on themselves.
They used to drink mercury.
They had to.
They used to drink mercury.
Yeah. I mean, like, the Mad as a Hatter thing, but, like, think about, like, old paints and stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like,
we painted
old house paints.
We painted houses with lead paint until, like, 78.
Yeah. It was easy to make paint out of lead.
Yeah. It's good paint.
Yeah.
It's great paint. It makes great paint. It just happens to be poison.
No. It's like asbestos. It's really good at preventing fires.
It's great. It's great insulation. It's just also poison.
Gives you lung cancer. Like really bad, painful lung cancer.
I may be overstepping myself a little, I said as I held out my hand for him to shake, but let me be the first to welcome you to the troupe. If this is to be a full and honest account of my life and deeds, I feel I should mention that my reasons for inviting Ben into our troupe were not entirely altruistic. It's true that quality cosmetics and clean lights were a welcome addition to our troupe. It's also true that I'd felt sorry for the old man alone on the road. But underneath it all, I was moved by my curiosity. I had seen Abernathy do something I could not explain, something strange and wonderful. Not his trick with the sympathy lamps. I recognized that for what it was, showmanship, a bluff to impress ignorant townsfolk. What he had done afterward was different. He called the wind, and the wind came. It was magic, real magic, the sort of magic I heard about in the stories of Tamerlane the Great, the sort of magic I hadn't believed in since I was 6. Now I didn't know what to believe. So I invited him into our troupe, hoping to find answers to my questions. Though I didn't know it at the time, I was looking for the name of the wind.
Fuck. Abernathy's a G.
Abernathy, he's an arcanist.
I mean, I'm seeing him like he's got a real Gandalf or like Albus Dumbledore feel right now.
Yeah.
They didn't even describe what he looked like, really, did he?
Nah, old man. And then I think they pretty much draw up the comparisons to tinkers and even wizards. So
yeah. So an arcanist is pretty much jack of all trades that's got magic.
Yeah, you'll find out more what an arcanist is as like they start hanging out a little bit. But yeah arcanists are basically.
So we're at 9.
They're basically the scientists of the time.
Okay.
And while everybody kind of looks at it as magic, you know, it's shit they learn at university. Here's the difference between sci-fi and fantasy that we were talking about the other day, and I was thinking about it later, and I realized it's like in fantasy books, the magic's magic, and in science fiction books, the science is magic. You know what I mean? And if you go
magic science.
If you go back in time in any magical text in which they described something that was magic, it's really science. And if you think about the shit we do now, if you were to take that back 50 years, people would be like, "What is this fucking magic?"
I'm about to get.
So I think that's the difference between magic and science. Magic is put forth as something where it's
sci-fi and fantasy, you mean?
Well, even to me or you right now, if someone came in here and did a bunch of like clearly levitated, and it's like, oh, that's fucking magic. But really what they've done is they've learned all these different steps of, hey, if I do this, it does this. If I do that, that's science. Science is going through and figuring out how things work.
Yeah, but there's still an element of you can't tell me he's summoning the wind because he's not using a device, is he?
To summon the wind?
Yeah.
No, I mean what he said is what they've described is that he said words and the wind responded. So
Yeah.
basically he knows the name of the wind and called the wind to come help him. Now, to me,
That's science?
that's magic.
Yeah.
To him, that's science because he's figured out that all he has to do is know the name of things and then he can control them.
But it's a magic that he's viewing as science.
I'm just saying, yeah, that's the difference between, like, to someone who wields magic, it's not magic to them. They understand what it's happening. It's magic to everybody else because they have no idea what it is.
They understand that. I guess so. In this world, they understand. They have 100%.
I'm talking across the board.
No.
Magic versus science.
No.
Yeah, 100%.
No, like Game
No
of
way.
Thrones magic.
Game of Thrones magic.
Game of Thrones, like understated Game of Thrones magic.
Right.
Where
To the people.
you can't tell me Melisandre knows like when she's doing a trick, but at the same time, she doesn't understand the power that actually like sends her a vision in the flames, right? Like I'm just quoting Game of Thrones because it's the fantasy I'm most into right now.
She understands that if she does X, Y, Z,
Yes,
it equals B.
she'll get she gets.
She understands if I do this, this, and this together, if I take these steps with these ingredients and these things, it's not to her. It's no longer magic at that point. To her, it's become science. She's basically a scientist.
In her POV chapter, she describes it as an art form,
Right.
right? Like she's a craftsman, and that kind of sounds like what this guy is too. Like
I would say that science can definitely be seen as an art form, and I would say that scientists are certainly craftsmen as well. If you look at people who've created things like computers and televisions, they're doing science, and to the common person, it's magic.
yeah,
To the common person, it's magic.
I understand your analogy.
Yeah.
And I agree with it to an extent that in this world they are looking at it like I have this formula to accomplish a goal, so it is a science.
To that person. And to everybody else,
it's magic.
Who's like, oh my God, the wind just blew. This guy's a magician. He's a
Yes.
fucking sorcerer. I'm just saying it's only perspective.
Yeah.
If I know all the steps,
If I know the mechanism, then it's
if I know all the steps and I
Yeah.
know that if I do all the steps, it's going to produce a certain outcome, there's nothing magical to me about that.
no.
There's no magic
No,
in it.
because
It's science at that point.
Yeah,
we've already
evidence.
put forth a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
We've tested it and we know what the result is. Science.
Science.
Magic, I'm going to throw some fucking beans in a fire or I'm going to bury some magic beans and a beanstalk grows and there's a giant.
Yeah.
To somebody who created those beans, that's just fucking biology. They were just like, hold on. Whoever created the beans, they're like, this is just biology. We're going to mix these genes. It creates this bean that you just water it fucking once, and it creates a giant beanstalk. To Jack, who's just some fucking ignorant farm boy, it's magic. He's like, I just put the beans there, and all of a sudden there's these fucking beanstalk, and I climb up there, and there's a giant and shit. Like, who the fuck knew giants lived up there? To the giants who've been living up there.
They're like, what the fuck is that thing?
Exactly. So it's
Magic.
like, it's all your perspective, whether something is science or magic.
Yep.
To David Blaine, or any type of magician,
Yep.
any type of modern magician who's performing some kind of magic trick, it's not magic to them.
Okay, for instance, Donald Trump saying that the coronavirus is 99.9% unharmful.
Right.
Is him doing magic. Because science says that 4.7% of people that get the virus die.
Listen, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to make the amazing analogy that I've spent the last 5 minutes crafting and talking through very well, making extremely compelling arguments to just fucking then turn it into some Donald Trump rant and just bastardize the fuck out of it.
Yep.
So I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate you doing that with my beautiful words.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Wear a mask. And
mask up.
thanks for watching, everybody.
Hey, yeah, listen, and if you feel like you are less of a man because you don't have a beard, there's something you can do about it.
Go to the Beard Struggle.
You can go to thebeardstruggle.com and put in code MC Walker for 15% off
They
your
have
order
beard
today.
vitamins.
They got oils, creams.
They'll
They
stimulate.
got this heated brush.
Stimulate
oh my
your
God.
growth.
It's the next thing I'm going to get is this heated
You gonna
brush
get
they
the
have.
heated brush?
Yeah.
The heated brush is when you got growth like Maddie's boys got. You
it's
gotta
intense.
You gotta straighten that motherfucker, and the
You
heated
got
brush
it.
helps.
Dude, these things are so curly when
They're
they
very
come
good.
out.
Yeah, they're very curly.
Yeah, so heated brush. If I heat brush this thing, I gain probably an inch of length.
Have you fucked with
Twisties?
the circle brushes?
The circle brushes.
Yeah,
No,
I'm gonna teach you something about beards in a minute.
you don't need to teach me anything about
I'm
beards.
gonna
fine.
teach him something about grooming.
You don't know anything.
we love
about
you.
grooming.
Thank you.
Look at you. You're not groomed right now.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. I attacked you. And
Wear a mask.
You mentioned
I
earlier.
wear a mask every day.
You mentioned
I
earlier
don't-
that I should be nicer to you on tape because we all know how nice to you I am off tape. So I should be
It's
nicer.
actually very nice.
I'm
He hugs
extremely
me.
nice. I
He
tell you I
touches
love
my
you. I
butt.
talk to you about things that are
Yeah,
going
he
on.
comes in my bedroom. We cuddle.
So, I'm just worked up because you used my words in.
Tried to make a plea to Americans to.
It was gross.
Wear-
it was
wear
really
masks.
gross. It was really gross.
I gotta
and
do my part. I feel like I
You
gotta
don't.
do my
You
part.
don't have a platform. You don't have a part
I
to
don't.
do.
But
So
at the
just
same time, the people
shut your mouth
Anybody who's watching, I
and
hope
make
you
people
do. I
laugh.
hope you wear a mask. Please wear a mask.
I hope you. Yeah.
Wear a mask and stay away
Listen.
from people.
Listen. There's certain things we can fight about and be upset about, but just for a while.
And don't talk to the cops.
Don't talk to the cops. What if you're married to a cop?
Don't talk to them.
Don't talk to them.
Divorce them.
Stop it. We
Well,
love you guys.
We do. Unless you're a bad
Take
cop.
care. Listen, I'm not. God damn it, Bill. Like you say so many things.